Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode If You Could Hide to Kolob podcast. My name's Daniel. This is my brother Clive.
Hello, everybody. Welcome. We're at the end of the books of Moses, aren't we, Daniel? We're at the end of Deuteronomy here. It's such a milestone because we've gone, we did Adam and we did Enoch and we did Noah, and then Moses consumed so much of the Old Testament for now that to be over and a whole new chapter's about to start next week.
Yeah, there's a lot to get into. Why don't you give us a quote and we can start?
Okay, so my quote is by Elder Dean L. Larson from Conference 1991. You might remember it. You're a lot older than me. So the conference talk is called "Beware Lest Thou Forget the Lord." And I
Did
came
you say
across
I
this
would? Did you say 1991?
in 1991. Yeah.
And I would remember. Wow.
Okay, so I came across this when I was studying for this episode. It says here, history repeatedly confirms that the abundance of earthly possessions can be both a blessing and a curse, depending upon the way these things are viewed and used. When we consume them in our own lust, we invoke tragedy. The challenges related to an improvement in material property remains the same. The message that echoes to us from the pages of the history and from the counselors of the Lord and his prophets is clear. Seek ye first the kingdom of heaven. Seek not for the riches to consume them on your own lust. Feed the hungry. Pay your tithing. Acknowledge the Lord. Be grateful. Be humble. And I read that, as we're going to talk about today, that the people started to get riches, and it reminded me a lot of people in the Book of Mormon, how they didn't follow those key steps there given by the apostles.
Okay, so Clive, Moses is 120. He's now in his final addresses really to the people there. He knows he's not going to be allowed to enter into the new world, into the land of Canaan. This is not a blessing that he will be able to carry. So he, as he would have done in so many occasions over the decades that he is out there, he gathers the people together and he really reminds them of a lot of things and gives them lots of lessons. Now, there's a lot in here that even Jewish people, there's laws that Moses is giving in here that Jewish people still live to this day. We're going to talk about a few of them. I'll bring up a few in this episode. But we also have Jesus Christ referring to Moses, one of Moses's statements here as the greatest law, the greatest of all commandments. So it really is packed. And I would say within our faith, Clive, this would be often skipped. This would be not really often read about within our particular religion. We're big on the Book of Mormon first and foremost. Then we've got the first few books of the New Testament and then parts of the Doctrine and Covenants all kind of form, what people would know the most about or what people get taught the most about. And then second, third, and then little bits about the Pearl of Great Price, Joseph Smith history. And then I would then say that then parts of this in the Old Testament, many people are learning about for the first time.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a shame. There's a lot of good stories in the Old Testament, but it's been changed and chopped and different things have happened. So it's hard for us to say, read the Old Testament as much as you read the Book of Mormon. It's just not the case. But you're right. There's a lot of history in here that some religions stick to. We really use this more of a guide, I think. And, I was saying to you earlier that these chapters that we're coming up today, these are conferences that Moses has given. And so the way I've read it more of a conference talk in a sense more than a read the Old Testament in an Old Testament way. I mean, like if we were to read old conference talks, we'd take bits out and go, well, that's interesting what they've said. Follow the Lord, do this and do that. And I think sometimes, we only use really the Old Testament as more of a reference for that sort of thing.
And I'm not sure that's ever going to change because people simply just do not have the time to be reading about the Book of Mormon all the time and then also read about the Doctrine and Covenants, church history, New Testament. By the time you get to the Old Testament, time has really escaped. So it's really, to me, it's something that you need to plan and carefully consider the time that you were able to give to the Old Testament.
Yeah, I agree. And we're always challenged to read the Book of Mormon. I feel like every year we get a challenge from the prophet to read the Book of Mormon. So you're right. Like, at what time in between? We all live our lives. We've all got stuff to do. What time in between do we get to read the Old Testament and study it? So that's why I guess that's why Can Follow Me is so important.
All right. So Clive, we're doing I'm going to lock in my memory here, but we're doing Deuteronomy 6, 7, 8, 15, 18, 29, 30, 34.
Perfect.
Wonderful. And I don't know if we're going to get through all of that, but I know we're going to get through a few chapters. So let's see how we crack on. But if we first of all, Clive, I'm going to set the scene. I've already kind of alluded to this, but Moses is with the people. I don't think he's with all of the people because there are simply just too many for him to talk to. I would dare say that he's with those who are the most righteous or those who want to listen to him. Maybe messages went out amongst the groups of what Moses had to say. I don't know how well they were at reading and writing, though. So I'm imagining, if I think about it logically, I'm imagining Moses is talking to a large group of people, or he's talking to multiple large groups of people. This message, and so he's already been into it, but we start ourselves in this particular Come Follow Me in chapter 6, and I'm going to go down to verse 3, 4, and 5. Clive's where I wanted to start off. He says, "Hear therefore, O Israel, and observe to do it, that it may be well with thee, and that ye may increase mightily, as the Lord God of thy fathers have promised thee, in the land that floweth with milk and honey. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one Lord." And this part here, Jesus Christ later would tell his disciples, his followers, is the most important of all commandments, the greatest commandment. "And that thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thine heart, and with all thy soul, and with all thy might." So, Clive, Moses is doubling down here. Before he teaches them anything, he's confirming to them, he's reminding them of the relationship they need to have with the Lord.
Yeah, well, I mean, as Christ puts it, if you follow or love the Lord with all thy heart, with all thy mind, soul, and then you love thy neighbor, anything else just falls into place quite clearly. And so Moses, you got to remember as well, Moses is now speaking to the new generation that's going to go into the promised land. So he really needs to set them up as, this is the core. This is the main thing that you need to understand, because when you go into the promised land, you're not going to have me there. If you keep these things in mind, these basic commandments or these primary answers that we call them now, then it should be the way that you follow, that everything should fall into place from there.
Yeah, really, really interesting. He then reminds them of a commandment of something that they must do. If we go down to verse 8, and thou shalt, so he's talking about commandments. Actually, I'll just quickly read 7. "Thou shalt teach them diligently unto thy children." This is the commandments. "And shalt talk of them when thou sittest in thine house, and when thou walkest by thy way, and when thou liest up, and when thou risest up." And this is the important verse. "And thou shalt bind them for a sign upon thine hand, and they shall be as frontlets between thine eyes." So this is tefillin, which I've mentioned before. There is a short writing that is written and is placed in a box, and the box is in two places. One is on your hand. It comes with a leather strap. The leather is wound around your forearm up to just past the elbow. And then the other one is between your eyes, right in the middle of your forehead. It is a box as well with paper and the prayer written in it, and it is around your head. So these two things Jews still do to this day. It's very common, very, very common.
And when do they do it? Is it during a specific prayer or like on a Sunday or?
I don't know. I think it's daily. I think it's daily, but it's a very great question that I do not have the answer to.
I just think I've never seen anyone walking around like that, so it can't just be all
No,
the
they
time.
wouldn't walk around with it because it's on for a specific ceremony, call it.
Right. Okay.
It's not on, like, they don't go to work with it on their head. They've got the skull cap and the tzit, which is their undergarment, that are their outward reminders going about their day. These are their outward reminders of their faith. But the tefillin and a bunch of other things are what is their own commandment, their reminders, I guess.
I was just looking at the footnotes as you were saying that, and you're right. It does say worn by Jews during the morning prayers.
Right.
So interesting. And that the outward garments thing, that's actually mentioned in Numbers 15, which we didn't get to. So there's like you said, there's a lot there that we've read about that still happen today. It's interesting.
Yeah. So the tzitzit is a garment, and it's very easy. If you see an Orthodox Jew, you will see that something probably the same length as this pen, but it's white. It's white little bits of cotton, essentially, and there is a specific number. There's 613 of them. It's a sleeveless kind of vest with these almost like little cotton rope things sticking out the bottom, and each number is each line, each piece of fabric is a reference to one of the 613. So you'll see that if you see someone walking around, they got a skull cap on, and you see these little bits of rope hanging out from underneath their undershirt, then that's what you're seeing, and that's that's a straight away. This would be someone who's wearing this would be someone in our faith would be likened to someone who's going to church every Sunday, paying their tithing, all of these, someone who is, somewhat committed to the faith.
Yeah, right. Interesting.
Okay, the next part, Clive, I wanted to do 10, 11, and 12. Is there anything that I've sort of missed here?
Not really. I just wanted to mention 9, where it says that also put one upon the posts of your home and on your gates. Do you know if that's still the case? Because the footnotes on verse 9, it says passages of the law written on tiny scrolls enclosed in a small counter and nailed on the right doorpost or gate as an ordinance of remembrance. So is that also still happening today? Is that still what we see?
I'm going to say yes, but I don't know that one anywhere near as much as I know tefillin and tzitzit and some other things that we'll talk about today.
All right, perfect.
But I would say yes, because I can't assume anything that would stop them, or that the rabbis would have needed to alter in this time.
Yeah.
Clive 10, and it shall be when the Lord thy God shall have brought thee into the land which he swore unto thy fathers, to Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, to give thee great and goodly cities, which thou buildest not. So they're going into good, great cities, which they themselves have had not had to toil. And houses full of all good things, which thou fillest not. And wells digged, which thou diggest not, vineyards, olive trees thou plantest not, and thou shalt have eaten and be full. Then, this is the warning. So you are going to enter into a world that you have not had to earn. You are going to go into a world that is well established, and this comes with a warning. Then beware lest thou forget the Lord, which brought thee forth out of the land of Egypt, from the house of bondage. So when you go there, it's going to be so easy to get swept up in being no longer relying on manna, quail, water out of rocks. Like, this is going to be, you're going into a fairly modern city that the sweat of your brow has not earned. You will go in and you'll go to a fantastic place. But the warning is that you could quickly forget the Lord that has blessed you with such a thing. You could have still been back as a slave to the Egyptians, as your fathers were.
Yeah, so they like I said, this is a new generation. So their history is all, we were slaves and now we've been in the wilderness. Like, to them, miserable on top of miserable, And so for Moses to say, you're about to go to this place, wells are already dug, herbs are already there, plants are already there, there's animals abundantly. Like, all these things were prepared well before Moses, before the Joseph and his brothers. This was all Abraham's doing, and Enoch and all that. Everyone's prepared it beforehand. And so, yeah, and so you're going to go from this misery into something so incredible. It's like going from poor to rich immediately. Just remember why you are this way. Don't get overtaken by the riches.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And it is they do need a constant reminder, because it is their father. We don't have a lot of record of these guys, but their fathers were very quick to forget the Lord. Very, very quickly, and so many things happened that needed to bring them back.
Yeah, I agree. And because, as well, they've come from Egypt, their fathers have come from Egypt, where there's lots of gods, and different gods do different things. So if one god isn't doing what you need, you go to another god and say, well, maybe this other god can provide in a different way. And so it was hard for them to keep up that there's only one God that provides for all. So it's hard for them to stick with it. So there's more warnings from Moses in chapter 7. He's warning them that we're going to go to this place now. It's going to be surrounded by lots of different tribes, and he names them all in verse 1 of chapter 7. But now that he gives them a warning in chapter 3. Neither thou shalt make marriages with them. Their daughter thou shalt not give unto his son, nor his daughter thou shalt take unto thy son. So basically, it's like when we were studying weeks ago, when the Canaanites and all of those were around, and Abraham and his posterity and all Noah and their posterity, they were warned not to marry into the Canaanites, because the Lord didn't want, they obviously had a cursing that they couldn't have the priesthood. And so the Lord didn't want that for his chosen people. Now, it's a similar sort of idea. These are chosen people of the Lord. They've gone through all of this heartache and all of this difficult 40 years in the wilderness, and they're gone, let's keep it all. We are the chosen people. Let's keep it as the chosen people. He says in verse 6, for thou art an holy people unto the Lord thy God. The Lord thy God hath chosen thee to be special people upon himself, above all people that are upon the face of the earth. So we are the chosen people. It's not that the Lord's gone, we don't like anyone else, but you are a separate group that are chosen. So let's keep it chosen. And then I like in verse 7 and 8, it's like, well, why? The Lord did not set his love upon you, nor chose you, because ye were more in number than any people, for ye were fewer of all people. So the Lord hasn't chosen you because there's so many of you. In fact, when you were chosen, there was a small amount. You think of Abraham couldn't have children, and then he eventually had Isaac, like this was the smallest amount of people that the Lord's blessed. And then in verse 8, but because the Lord loved you, and because he would keep the oath which he had sworn unto your father, hath the Lord brought you out with a mighty hand, and redeemed you out of the house of bondsmen, from the hand of Pharaoh, king of Egypt. The Lord has made a promise for generations and generations, and you people are lucky enough to be born in that promise. So the Lord has made a promise that you will be the promised people. Let's keep it that way, is essentially how it's all being played out.
Yeah, and I think he's also, if I think about now, if I'm comparing the both, the idea that Moses is trying to get across here, Clive, I think is, how do you, in your day-to-day life, remember the Lord? So he's constantly giving them reminders here. He's saying this happened because the Lord loved you, he saved you. Because of this, you've got this commandment. Because of this, you've got this daily reminder. And the end result here for Moses is to say, I'm shaking you for you to remember this, because I need you every single day to remember and to give thanks that you're here. Because the minute you don't is the minute you're going to fall back. And that actually, in reality, then there was no point in you ever becoming free out of Egypt. You might as well have just stayed there.
Yeah, exactly. And the Lord really, I think in the way of, I go to church, I pay my tithing, I do everything. The guy next door doesn't go to church, doesn't pay tithing, and he's a lot more well off than me. And I can blame the Lord and say, well, obviously what I'm doing it myself. But then you got to remember all the blessings that the Lord has provided for you. Even if you don't think it in any way, the Lord has blessed our lives. And so in chapter 8 that we'll get to in a minute, the Lord's Moses reminding the people, well, how about this and how about this? And the Lord has provided all of these things. So when you come to and you see all these other nations surrounding you, remember, even if it doesn't seem like it at the time, remember all the blessings that the Lord has provided for you to get to the situation that you're in now.
Clive, exactly to your point here in verse 2 of chapter 8. And thou shalt remember all the way which the Lord thy God led thee these 40 years in the wilderness, to humble thee, and to prove thee, and to know what was in thine heart, whether thou wouldest keep his commandments or no. So the Lord is saying, you are my chosen people, and therefore I need the trials to go through, because I need to know which of you is committed to be the chosen people. Who is on the left, who is on the right? There is no middle. And so then if we go to 5, thou shalt also consider in thine heart that as a man chasteneth his son, so the Lord thy God chasteneth thee. So he's again reminding them, what is the purpose? Remember what you went through. Remember why you're here. Find points in your day that you will recall this in your mind and give thanks for the situation you're in.
Yeah, I think the Lord's warning them about, or Moses is more warning them about this trap of, I did this, I got here. Moses didn't make it, I made. Because in verse 17, the Lord says, and thou say in thine heart, my power and the might of mine hand hath gotten me this wealth. But then there's a warning in 18, but thou shalt remember the Lord thy God, for it is he that giveth thee power to get wealth, that he mayest establish his covenant with which he swore unto thy fathers as at this day. At any point, if the Lord wanted to, obviously he's made this promise and he wouldn't, but the Lord could have gone, you've rebelled so much in the wilderness, I'm washing my hands clean of you. But he continued to bless them and that's why they get to the point now. That's the blessing. It's hard. Sometimes it's hard to see the future of the blessing that happened previously. But if you remember the Lord and remember, this isn't all from me. I'm only at the point where I am now because of the blessings that the Lord has provided for me. It's hard. It's a lot harder for other people than it is for some. But, I think if we sort of focus our lives on that idea, how much different would our lives be?
Yeah. It's certainly that pride cycle warning that he's given to the people. And you really do feel Moses here saying, I am about to leave you. You're going to have another leader in Joshua, but these are my kind of final words.
Yeah, I see that. Actually when you say it, because look at the people that we've followed so far in the Old Testament. Look at the people where the Lord has blessed them and the Lord has told us something. And when they pass on, they want to give all their knowledge to their children. You look at Adam, for example. He gathered all of his children on his deathbed, and he tried to give him all the knowledge that he has. And you're right, Moses has gone, I'm not coming with you. Here's everything that I have. Deuteronomy is split up like 3 different conferences, or a bunch of, like the way you said, maybe it was a group of people at some stage, maybe it was all of them at another stage. But Moses has gathered people together and gone, here's everything I know, because it's everything that you need to know. And I feel like everything that he's saying, really the crux of it, the main part, the key is follow the Lord because he has blessed us so far.
So 15 is the next little interesting Jewish tidbit that I have. So Moses announces this idea that at the end of every 7 years, thou shalt make a release. This is the heading. This is the headline, of chapter 15. And then if we go to verse 9, beware that there be not a thought in thy wicked heart, saying, the 7th year, the year of release is at hand, and then I shall be evil against thy poor brother, and thou givest him naught. And he cry unto the Lord against thee, and it shall be a sin unto thee. So what is happening? Moses is saying that in the 7th year, any debt against you will be forgiven. So, Clive, you borrow me $100. I give you $1 a year. And let's say you give it to me in the first year. So by the time the seventh year comes, I still owe you $94. You then have to say, all good, it's the seventh year, that debt is forgiven. And this is what Moses is proposing here. And the Jews call the year, I'm just going to read it off the side of my scriptures here, Shemitah. This is what the seventh year is called, Shemitah. Maybe it's not the right way to say it, but that is the English spin I'm putting on it. And so, Clive, this seems wildly unfair, right? Like every 7 years, if you're going to be you're going to be short of the debt, the money you borrowed me, I'm not going to have to give you back, because in the seventh year you are commanded by the Torah that you will wipe the debt.
Well, yeah, exactly. I would see it as, you know what, I'm going to go borrow a whole bunch of different money off everyone. By 7 years, it's got to be clear, and I've made all that money. That's how I would see it. As a wicked person myself, obviously.
As a truly awful human, as a wildly wicked man. So what happened is years later, so this is happening, right? And the whole purpose of this is because Moses wanted to share the love, and there should be no poor among them. This is another purpose to it here. So the Jews come along and they say, okay, well, in the Jews are giving short-term loans, but when it comes to year 5 and the year of the Shemitah is only a couple of years away, they're recognizing that people don't have time to pay the debt back. So they say, well, we just can't do this. And they go through then time and time again where people are going, well, there's only a couple of years to Shemitah, so I can't actually give the poor any money. I can't give any loans out because I'm just going to have to forgive them in 2 years. So this guy called Hillel, he comes up with this idea called Pruz Bel, okay? And what it means is that you go to the courts, which now you just do it online, and you transfer your debt to the court. So there is 3 other men, Biet Den, they're called. 3 other men are around, and you declare in front of them that you would declare, well, Daniel owes me $94, and I'm not going to forgive him of the $94. I'm going to transfer the debt to the court. And if I transfer the debt to the court, this law in the Torah does not apply to me, because the law specifically says here that you only owe it to your brother. Well, the court is not a brother. And so the way the Jews get around this is by transferring the debt to the court, and then the court then say, okay, Clive, you are now an agent of the court, and you can continue getting the money back from Daniel through this process. Does that make sense if I explain that at all?
Yeah. So instead of you owing me the debt, now you pay the court the debt instead of paying it directly to me. Is that right?
Well, I would still pay you, because when you say to the court, hey, the court, Daniel now owes you, the court automatically in the exact same sentence say, great, you are now the agent of me, so therefore you can continue to collect the debt off Daniel.
I don't want to say the Jewish people are wrong for this, but it seems like the way the law's organized is there will be no poor among you, because after 7 years, if you can't pay the debt, we're just going to scrap it. But they've found a way to go, we're going to keep getting our money back. You know what I'm saying? Like, fair enough, that's what they want to do, but it just seems like the way that Moses laid it out is quite different to the way you're describing it now, because it's all cancelled after 7 years, according to this.
Yeah. This is a point of contention, I think, like there is in Mormonism. There's points of contention. This is a point of contention because this is in the Torah. This is in the books of Moses. This is the scripture. But yes, there is a way to go around this, because, well, now money's involved and I don't want to lose money. So the law and the principle to the law, it has really been done away with. So you're right in going, well, this kind of doesn't really make sense. Well, yeah, it doesn't make sense. The principles have been um, completely, diverted away from. And this is this similar in our religion and in lots of other religions. Some things were made sense back then, but don't made now. And people kind of make concessions. In reality, I did do a little bit of research. I've got a couple of Jewish books here. Um, Only a small number of people actually even go through the process of prosabel, of giving the debt to the court. Most just ignore Deuteronomy altogether. Just say, well, too bad. You will continue to pay me regardless of the year of the Shemitah. So a few of them go through the process of going to the synagogue on the Shabbos and getting the Biet Dens around and saying, hey, this debt's going to the court. I'm going to be the agent to the court. People do it online, like I mentioned. So in reality, it doesn't really get followed at all. But yeah, a few Jews, a small percentage, will still go through the prosabel. But I don't think any, and this is a big statement, an uneducated statement, but from my understanding, there's none that forgive debt at 7 years as per Moses. They either go through the prosabel or they don't worry about it at all.
Right. I like the other one, though. So the other one that they talk about. Basically, if you can't afford to pay debt back, you can become their bondsman, it says. It doesn't want to say servant, but it says that you'll serve them. You can serve them instead. But then in verse 15, the Lord says, thou shalt remember that thou wast a bondsman in the land of Egypt, and the Lord thy God redeemed thee. Therefore, I commend thee this thing today. So basically, if you can't pay the debt back, you can be a bondsman. You can serve this person, but then after 7 years, same thing. I've let you people go from the Egyptians. I've released you from the Egyptians. I want to be the same way with this. So if you can't pay the debt, you'd be. But then he also says, interesting, I'm not going to read it, but he essentially says, if you really like being their servant after the 7 years, you can continue, and that's fine. It's funny. It's like, oh, I enjoyed this.
Yeah.
Good job, or whatever. So, yeah, but it'd be interesting if anyone follows that rule instead. Okay, well, come to my house, be my cleaner for the next 7 years. Uh, you know.
Yeah. Interesting. That I don't know.
All right, so it's getting quite serious now. Moses, he needs to organize a prophet. Sorry, well, the Lord obviously needs to organize a prophet, but Moses is the one. He is the prophet at the moment. And he says in verse 15 of chapter 18, the Lord thy God will raise up unto thee a prophet from the midst of thee, of thy brethren, like unto me. Unto him ye shall hearken. So, yes, I was the prophet. I'm not coming with you. There will be a prophet. The Lord will organize a prophet, and it will be one of you. And I really like at the end of chapter 18, and I know I've only just got into it, but right at the end of chapter 18, he gives the requirements of a prophet. And he says, this is the person that will be the prophet. In 21 and 22, he says, and if thou say in thine heart, how shall we know the word which the Lord hath spoken? So how do we know? When a prophet speaketh in the name of the Lord, if the thing follow not, nor come to pass, that is the thing which the Lord hath not spoken. But the prophet hath spoken it presumptuously, thou shalt not be afraid of him. So we've got to basically, by the fruits they will know them, is the way that Moses is saying it here. If a prophet prophesies about something that comes about, well, that is of God. Satan, he tricks people, and we see that a lot in the Book of Mormon, where someone will say, hey, this is going to come about, and maybe it does, but it's like two truths and a lie. Two things might come about, and then something doesn't. Well, that's the proof that it's not of God. Where of God, it's always the way. Things will always be the way. God will perform the miracles to help everyone out. And so that's how you know what the prophet is. And so that's the organization that's been prepared from there. So now we're getting to the end here, Daniel. I'm going to jump to Deuteronomy 30. This is the ending here for Moses. He's really got it prepared. He prepares the people. In verse 14, he says this of 30, but the word is very nigh unto thee in my mouth and in thine heart, that thou mayest do it. See that I have set before thee this day life and good and death and evil. So he's saying that this is coming close now. I'm almost gone, but these things that I've prepared you for, they're on their way. They're good and they're bad. Right? And then 19, I call heaven and earth to record this day against you, that I have set before you life and death, blessing and cursing. Therefore, choose life, that both thou and thy seed may live. So he's gone, you must, I'm going to go, but this is life. Following Christ is life. This is life eternal. This is the way that we go about. So Moses, it's more than arguing about obeying God. He's more saying that in a natural sense, people seem to think that we grow up in a natural way of becoming wicked. But Moses is saying that put that off. We're not. We are righteous people, and we are the people chosen by the Lord. Follow the law, follow the Lord, and all that comes about comes about.
I like, Clive, in 20, that thou mayest love, like, what is the reason? What is the purpose to what you have just said? That thou mayest love the Lord thy God, and that thou mayest obey his voice, and that thou mayest cleave unto him. For he is thy life, and the length of thy days, that thou mayest dwell in the land which the Lord sware unto thy fathers, to Abraham, Isaac, to Jacob, to give them. He's telling them that you the people have been blessed for generations, and this, where you're about to go, this land you're about to inherit, is a result of prior blessings. Don't forget that. And yeah, that verse 19 is remarkable. Choose life, that both thou and thy seed, that you and your children may live. Of course, he's talking in an eternal perspective.
So, coming to the close here of Deuteronomy in 34, Moses died. And this is actually interesting. A lot of people argue whether Moses wrote this before he died because he knew what was happening, because Moses knew that he was about to die, or that this was actually written by Joshua, the last chapter of Deuteronomy. To me, it reads more like the last, that Joshua probably wrote it. But so in verse 5, and Moses, the servant of the Lord, died there in the land of Moab, according to the word of the Lord. Right? The Lord already knew he was going to die. This is the preparation for it. Now, we've talked about last year, I believe, when we were talking about the Doctrine and Covenants, how Moses was translated. Because in verse 6 it says, he buried him in the valley, the land of Moab, over against Beth Peor, but no man knoweth of his sepulchre unto this day. And if you look at the footnotes here, it does say translated beings. There's a lot of doctrine that speaks about how Moses was translated. I think I brought up the Ethiopian Bible when we talked about it, how Moses actually died and went into the clouds, or he just wandered off into the clouds and no one saw him again. Whether you want to see that, the point of this chapter is verse 9. And Joshua, the son of Nun, was full of the spirit of wisdom, for Moses had laid his hands upon him, and the children of Israel hearkened unto him, and he did as the Lord commanded Moses. And there arose not a prophet since in Israel like unto Moses, whom the Lord knew face to face. There hasn't been such a great prophet since Israel, which, as we were reading, there's been such a big skip over what happened in between, but Moses was such a great prophet. The prophet that's been chosen from him is Joshua, whose book we will find out next. And he is the one that leads these children of Israel to the promised land.
Excellent. What a great way to finish the books of Moses. Next week, we'll continue our Come Follow Me journey. Thank you. Catch us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and we will see you next week.